Too late to fix it. The Council watches as humans depart. Ambassador Thorex stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Council's central station, his three eyes fixed on the fleet assembling in the distance. Hundreds of human vessels, their angular design so different from the organic curves of Council architecture, hung in formation like a swarm of mechanical insects preparing to leave the hive forever. "They're really doing it," whispered Counselor Vera, her crystalline form refracting the starlight into 1,000 melancholy colors. "After everything we've built together." Thorex's mandibles clicked in what his species expressed as regret. 23 cycles. That's how long humanity had been part of the Galactic Council. 23 cycles of being dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated. He remembered the day they'd arrived, those strange bipedal creatures with their soft skin and stubborn eyes. The Council had accepted them as a curiosity, a primitive species barely worthy of junior membership. Their single homeworld, their short lifespans, their lack of natural defenses, all marks of insignificance in the grand tapestry of galactic civilization. But the humans had proven useful. When the Vryn plague threatened to wipe out entire sectors, it was human doctors who worked around the clock, their adaptability allowing them to develop treatments for dozens of species. When the Catharan trade routes collapsed, human engineers rebuilt them in half the projected time. When war threatened the Outer Rim, human soldiers stood on the front lines, dying in numbers that made even the Council's military commanders uncomfortable. And how had the Council repaid them? Thorex's throat sac tightened as he recalled the votes. Humanity's petition for full Council membership, denied. Their request for protection of Earth's biosphere from corporate mining operations, denied. Their proposal for fair representation based on population, rather than planetary systems, denied, with barely concealed contempt. "They're just one world," Councillor Zeph had said during the last session, his gelatinous body rippling with dismissive laughter. "Why should they have equal voice with empires that span hundreds of systems?" The humans had tried to explain. Earth, they said, held 9 billion souls, 9 billion individuals, each precious and unique. But the Council had never understood humanity's strange obsession with individual lives. What were billions when entire planets could be sacrificed for the greater good? The breaking point had come 3 months ago. The Traders Guild had demanded access to Earth's oceans for mineral extraction. The process would render the seas lifeless for generations, but the minerals were valuable. The Council had voted in favor. Economic prosperity outweighed the concerns of one member species about their homeworld. Ambassador Chen had stood before the Council that day, her face carved from stone, her voice steady despite the trembling of her hands. "You have made your position clear," she'd said. "Humanity is useful to you but not valued. We are tools to be used and discarded. Very well. We understand perfectly now." She had walked out of the chamber without another word. Within a week, every human serving in Council facilities had resigned. Doctors, engineers, soldiers, scientists, they all went home. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Medical centers struggled without human physicians who could treat multiple species. Infrastructure projects ground to a halt without human engineers who could adapt designs on the fly. Defense installations found themselves critically understaffed. Thorex had tried to convince them to stay. He'd gone to the human embassy himself, lowering his status plates in a gesture of supplication rarely shown by his species. Ambassador Chen had received him with cool politeness. "You're a good person, Thorex," she'd said. "You voted in our favor more than once, but you were always one voice among hundreds. The Council has shown us what we are to them. We're leaving before we waste more lives on those who don't appreciate them. Where will you go?" he'd asked. She'd smiled then, a human expression he'd learned to read over the years. This one was sad and determined all at once. "Out there, beyond Council space, we found 3 habitable worlds in the frontier regions. No government, no oversight, no one to tell us we don't matter. We'll build our own civilization with our own rules." "The frontier is dangerous," Thorex had protested. "Pirates, resource wars, uncharted anomalies. We know." Her smile had hardened. "We've handled dangerous before. We fought your wars, cured your plagues, built your infrastructure. I think we can manage on our own." Now, watching the fleet prepare to jump, Thorex felt the weight of opportunity lost. The Council had finally called an emergency session. Suddenly, everyone wanted to discuss compromise, to offer concessions, to beg the humans to reconsider. Too late. The council had sent their finest diplomat, Supreme Chancellor Vorith himself, to negotiate. Ambassador Chen had listened to his prepared speech about cooperation and mutual benefit, about how humanity was a valued member of the galactic community. Then she'd presented him with the data, human contributions to council operations over 23 cycles. Lives lost in service to the council, 847,000. Medical treatments, developed, 12 and 456 infrastructure. Projects completed ahead of schedule, 3891. Military, engagements where human forces prevented disaster, 271 point council. Votes in favor of human interests, 37. We gave you everything, Chen had said quietly. You gave us nothing but contempt wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. Goodbye, Chancellor. The fleet's engines began to glow, that peculiar blue-white of human FTL drives. Threx had studied them once. Inelegant by council standards, but reliable in a way that expensive, sophisticated council drives somehow weren't, like humans themselves. We're fools, Vera said beside him. We had something precious and we didn't realize it until we crushed it. Threx didn't respond. What could he say? She was right. The fleet jumped, hundreds of vessels vanishing in synchronized flashes of light. In moments they were gone, heading for unmapped space and an uncertain future. Behind them, the Galactic Council faced its own uncertain future, one without the species they'd taken for granted for far too long. Threx turned away from the viewport. In the distance, he could hear raised voices from the council chamber. Already the arguments were beginning. Who would fill the gaps humans left behind? How would they manage without human adaptability, human determination, human willingness to sacrifice? They would learn, he supposed, eventually, but it was too late to fix it now. The humans were gone and they weren't coming back.